This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel said it best, the whole of the Auburn experience. It encompasses so many crazy and maddening things. That's a little bit of a hint what we're talking about today. But all the things that it encompasses, people, places to eat, things to see, things to do. At its heart, at its core, it is all about our sports. It is all about our culture, and it is all about our family. And because the Auburn experience is all about family, I got to have an Auburn family here with me, your host, Kyle Loomis. I would welcome back my co-host, Mr. Austin Scott, to the show. What's going on, sir?
War Eagle Kyle, glad to be back for episode number 27. As our friend Brian told us pre-show, the Robinson Therese episode. We've thought
Brandon
about
Jacobs.
Chandler Cox, Brandon Jacobs, Jarquez Hunter for some current flavor. Need to think of some. Well, there is no 27 in basketball because 7 is not an officiable number. But I'm sure there's a baseball player I'm missing that has worn 27 at some point. But yes, back for episode number 27. And Kyle, the people don't know that you and I have actually seen each other in person since our last recording.
That is true. That is true. Usually this is the part of the show where we just bounce around everything, but we're going to jump right into it here. We're going to talk March Madness stuff, folks, and we're going to get to that after our first segment here. But we got to talk about, I had a pretty fun weekend in Auburn, and there was a pretty significant event that happened outside of like baseball and stuff like that. Gymnastics played. That's not right. Competed.
Sure.
Athletic.
I'll allow it.
Thank you for your, for your approval on that. Competed in their final home meet of the season, which means that not only is there a senior class, very special athletes. That's the last time that we got to see them in there. And amongst those are some familiar names like Darian Goborn, Cassie Stevens, and obviously, even though she's not a senior, the final time, even though she didn't compete, of Suni Lee being there. So I'll talk about, some other things I got to do on my trip, but I just kind of want to open it up with that, Austin. You have seen the final time of Suni Lee being an athlete at Auburn happen. How does it make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's over so fast, right? We all knew she kind of had some bigger aspirations, even though when she came to Auburn, it was like, is she going to stay here 4 years? There were some questions. And I mean, she made known pretty early on she wanted to get back and defend her title at the Olympics, and so her gold medal at the Olympics. And so she announced pre-season, which I thought was great. We could, take solace in the fact and watch her for a final time throughout the season, that she would not be returning after her sophomore year. And so, it happened so quick. It feels like that she came in, was this phenomenon, lived up to every part of the hype she could possibly be, and is now gone. I do not think, we've run into this over the last decade and a half at Auburn, where some high profile athletes come to Auburn and anyone on the national side of things or the across the state side of things want to talk about is, well, they're just using Auburn. Who would want to go to Auburn when you're that competitive? They're just using Auburn to get to the next. They don't even like Auburn that much. They're hardly ever there. I do not think this is the last time you'll see Suni Lee in Auburn or in Neville Arena, because it was painfully obvious how much she loves Auburn, Alabama, her university. I hope she comes back and gets her degree, so that she can say that it is her alma mater and graduated from there. But just fantastic to be able to watch her short career at Auburn. Hate we didn't get to see her this past week. Hopefully we get to see her in the SEC championships and beyond. But just a fantastic career for Suni Lee, one with numerous records, as they mentioned in her, I guess not like a senior spotlight, but a farewell, I guess, when she was given her flowers and whatnot. But man, just awesome to see someone like that come in and fall in love with Auburn, just like any of us else who don't compete for athletics, who just attend the school or grew up around it. So just super cool to see, and Auburn's going to miss her far beyond gymnastics speaking.
Oh, absolutely. But the great thing about being part of this family is that we celebrate you, we follow you, we get involved with what you do after this point. Jabari and Walker finding that out. There are plenty of other people and athletes and other positions that have found that out. That's happened in track and field, in swimming and diving. Christy Coventry has been followed by the Auburn family when she was swimming in the Olympics and all that kind of stuff. And there's no mistaking that the world follows Suni Lee when she heads there. But there'll be a special contingency of Auburn fans following her. I'll be honest with you. So when I had planned this weekend out, I had originally ordered these tickets at the beginning when the tickets were first announced because I wanted to be at the last one, hedging my bets that Suni wouldn't get hurt. Ironic, right? That nothing would go wrong, and just wanting to be there for senior night, essentially, because I figured they would do what they did. Is once she had announced she was done after the season, they would give her some special send off, which I thought was appropriate in
Absolutely.
the significance that she's had here. But also, I think they did it without making big to do about her. They didn't put her at the beginning or the end. They did them alphabetical order. I believe it was alphabetical order, and she just came up just like Darian did, just like Cassie Stevens did, just like Aria Brush did. Just everybody came up there like they were a senior to be honored, and I really really love that. In the middle of the meet, I did make my way over to sit down near Austin. I stared at the back of his head for much of the meet. So he was probably glad of that, so I wouldn't talk his ear off. Him and his lovely wife Emily the entire time. But I ran down there a few times and got to see him. So Austin and I just don't stare at each other here in the podcast every week. We actually do meet up in person sometimes. I'm sure Austin wishes it was a few less times, but it happens.
We've had our interactions. A lot of people don't even know that you and I probably for a long time it was just staring at each other through the computer or texting or talking on the phone until a tip off at Timmer's when we actually got to meet in person.
Was it you was it you that came found me, or did I find you?
We were texting, but I think I came and found you through the crowd.
The random guy holding up a phone or something, like recording everything. Yeah, that wasn't too hard to find. Now everybody's doing it. That's the crazy thing about this is I've been trying to do this stuff forever, and now everybody's trying to do it. And it's like, you get swamped up in all of the Auburn content creators now. Back to this stuff. Great weekend. I actually ended up going to tennis matches too, which ended up being, I didn't get to stay for the end of that because it ended up being kind of crazy into it. And I watched the lead up to that. So if you ever get a chance to go over to the Auburn Tennis Center and watch tennis matches, men or women, I encourage you to do so. It's actually there's a lot of energy out there too. But back to that final night there. Obviously, we would be remiss if we didn't mention, we've already mentioned a couple of names, but Darian Goborn, her importance to this program. A lot of people, myself included, I feel like probably used so much to Austin. When we heard Darian was coming back, Suni was coming back, really the pieces were all back for a championship run. And while, as we sit here recording the show, that's still on the table, it hasn't really amounted to that in terms of how the season has gone. While there's been some really good moments this year thus far, it feels like we haven't really peaked. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And like you said, when Suni announced she's coming back, Darian announced she's coming back, Sophia Groth had an incredible freshman year.
It's another one,
kind of slid back down sophomore year and is figuring out her own self while trying to push herself as well. Olivia Greaves, a freshman, was supposed to come in and start. And then you lose seniors who had been there so long that were steady, like Drew Watson. Everything was there. It looked like this was a year Auburn had gotten to the Final Four and was going to push for a national championship. Like you said, still on the table and absolutely can happen. We hope Suni can compete again. But this team has been able to show that they're not just Suni and the gang, right? Last night, a season high on bars, which is, oh, by the way, the best in the world wasn't competing with them while doing it.
And we still won it.
And still won. And so it's all there for them still. And I think that's encouraging to a lot of the Auburn family. And I hope it is because, that kind of atmosphere that's been in Neville Arena the past couple years had been building toward that. And Suni kind of was the one who lit the flame to send the firecracker off. But I hope that continues now that we've made kind of connections with the rest of these girls and that we've seen, hey, they're just as talented as Suni has been at some point. So let's give them their fair respect. And but there's still a lot left, like you said, on the table for this team, and I hope that they go far. That they've got the personnel and the ability to do so.
I will tell you though, as much as we will miss all these seniors, Suni involved in that discussion too, we will always miss from now on our queen. Darian Goborn,
Absolutely.
and the energy that she brings to that arena on that final floor routine every single time. I mean, it rivals. I think this might be a little hyperbole. It rivals some basketball games, like just those kind of, maybe those mid excitement games for basketball, but it gets loud in there for that girl. And
Yes.
she is some kind of special person. When we have a conversation at some point, when some of these slower periods, we'll talk about some of these things, maybe Mount Rushmore type of conversations. I think we probably already put Darian Goborn up on the Mount Rushmore of Auburn
Yeah.
gymnastics.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then I think that was something where she did not get the score. I think she ended up with 9,875 on her
Yeah, it was
final
pretty low
routine.
for. I was surprised.
Um, there were some large discrepancies between judges last night
It's
or
been a lot
Friday
of that
night,
lately,
but
hasn't there, for Auburn
it
sports?
sure has. But you could tell the emotions after her that was her last time. And Auburn's first ever national champion in gymnastics, and really her freshman year has seen. It makes you think about those KT Harrell
Yeah.
types that really saw the groundwork being laid and have now seen kind of where all it's gone. But she's been there for every part of it, and so it's awesome to send her out like that. And I really hope they get some more wins for her and the rest of the group.
I think that's a pretty good comparison, but I would throw more, if we're going to use those basketball type comparisons, maybe a Chuma Okiki, where he reached the pinnacle. Darian, if she was doing Olympic competing, I just feel like she'd be out there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not a pro in analyzing Olympic gymnastics capabilities, but I feel like she could be up there in some of the best of our country to offer. So, regardless of what you think about what level they can and can't compete at, we will miss so many of these people. And in lieu of missing out on a few names, obviously all the seniors, so Suni Lee as well. But it's been a fun gymnastics season with still a little bit to go here, and we'll just sit and watch and see maybe a little bit of magic happens at the end of the year. Let's move on and talk about March Madness, though, and there is plenty to discuss. We will try to fit it into one segment, but I have the stinking suspicion, Austin, that you and I will want to talk about this for quite some time tonight. To start off, obviously, let me give the news, and most everybody knows this, especially if you're listening on the audio podcast. Auburn has made March Madness again as a 9 seed. I think probably that's where most people felt like they would fall into, facing Iowa on Thursday at 5:50 Central Time in what we call the Birmingham Regional. But what is it? Round 2? I'm blanking. Session 2 of those particular games there. Good luck finding tickets if you haven't already. I mean, you can find them. You're just going to pay a pretty penny for them. I did. So that's what's on the table for us right now, specific to Auburn. Let me ask you, did you in any way have legitimate concerns that Auburn was not going to make this tournament?
Oh, not make the tournament, not make the 68 at all. No. I did not have any concerns. I think, as we talked about, and as many mentioned last Saturday when Auburn got the win at Tennessee, it did them well. That all but locked it in. As long as they didn't get their brains beat out in the SEC tournament, I don't think there was going to be any even questioning. They did not get their brains beat out. We're going to gloss over the first round loss for Auburn in the SEC tournament, but an incredible fight by the team and just another heartbreaking close loss. So that's just par for the course around here this year.
We're going to talk about happy things here,
Right. But I did not think that Auburn was going to miss the tournament. They'd done enough. Every metric and nerd stat you want to pull out, they had it. They were in. When you compare resumes, at this point, it was all about seating and location. And like you said, 9 was about where everyone had them. 8 to 10 was kind of the ceiling and floor. But Kyle, all I cared about was the location. Once it was talked about that Auburn might go to Birmingham, and obviously 2 hours up the road, that was all that mattered at that point, because it doesn't matter what seed you are, you create a home court advantage when you bring the jungle to Bartow Arena. And so I'm thrilled it's in Birmingham. I'm from
Legacy Arena, not
Birmingham.
Bartow. And just to clarify,
I'm sorry. Yes, we were talking
we
about Bartow earlier. That's where
just to I
UAB
knew
plays.
somebody would get confused, so I just want to clarify. I knew what
Thank
you
you for
meant,
saying that. Thank
but
you for
yeah,
saying that. Legacy Arena. That's where they'll be this week. And so I can't wait. I love that it's going to be Birmingham for Auburn. I love that it's going to be Birmingham for Alabama, truthfully, because I'm the city is going to get tons and tons of business for this, and that's what you hope for. So I hope Auburn fans pack it out. It's
yeah.
the 5:50 game. You can get off work and head that way. It could not have been a better draw for Auburn.
Yeah, let's do that for this first segment here of discussing this, because, like I said, we probably plan to do 2 of these. Let's talk about like maybe the logistics of all this, the outside of the game, and what's going to happen with it going forward. If we want to offer some predictions at some point, we can. But let's focus in on this, because for me, it's not shocking that Auburn found its way into a regional in Birmingham. I was discussing this with someone in the very brief reaction live stream we did after the news broke about people know that Auburn travels well. And that affects sometimes. I'm not saying it did here, but I wouldn't be shocked if there were decisions that were worked in such a way knowing where they were going to maximize profits. You give Auburn fans a reason to come somewhere. We found this in every sport. We've talked about it here on this show a number of times. They will show up and in droves and spend money and to support either a athletic program specifically that's currently participating, or someone from the Auburn family, aka Jabari Smith in EMBA or Sonny DeShera up in Huntsville. There's a reason that, like bowl season, right? It's no shock sometimes the bowls that Auburn, if they're eligible, go somewhere. Do you think any of that was at play with this in your mind, or am I just kind of making something up here?
I think it's definitely a factor that could be moved in. I think a lot of this is probably done, with how the dominoes fall.
Right.
Auburn is in Houston's region, Houston's region. The other option that looked like Auburn might get was Kansas, and that would have put them a little bit further up in the Midwest area. That is the region there in the Midwest, and so the 2 options I kept seeing were Auburn as an 8-9, still playing Iowa in Des Moines, Iowa,
Oh my
or in
gosh. Could you
Birmingham,
imagine?
Alabama. And I mean, those are very similar. When it's an 8-9 matchup like that, it's a toss up, right? Those are overall seeds within 2 to 3 of each other. And so when you look at the fact that they didn't get put in Kansas's region, I think that's the first domino that falls. And then you see, are we going to put Auburn and Iowa in Des Moines, or Auburn and Iowa in Birmingham? Well, they went with Birmingham. So I think a lot of what you're saying checks out there. And I don't know if that means they're favoring Auburn or not. I think truthfully, it's just a matter of capitalism in a small
I don't think it has anything
sense.
to do with Auburn. I think it has all to do with capitalism, like you just said. I think
Yeah,
but because they know Auburn people will come, and if you
right.
give them a ease of access to it,
And
that
and here's the thing is this does in no way mean Auburn's winning this game.
oh no,
It certainly helps, but if you're an Auburn fan believing that's a shoe-in, you have not been watching very long. Auburn this will be a great game. It'll be
yeah,
competitive. It'll be very balanced, and we'll
it will
see if
be.
Auburn can pull it out. But it's certainly set up for them to be in Birmingham, with Houston being the next game if they can get there. Houston being banged up. I mean, Auburn Magic might be working its ways in here.
The only concern I have is that makes too much sense, and I'm not trying to like go
Oh
ahead and
yeah,
give us, like to me the 2019 run didn't make any sense. Like,
yeah.
when does Auburn run through Kansas, North Carolina, Kentucky to get to the Final Four and just knocking off blue blood after blue blood? It would, like, I'm not trying to be a pessimist and a Debbie Downer here, but it just seems like it's setting up too well for Auburn. Now, I'm not complaining. I want every opportunity to fall our way. Playing in Birmingham, check. Playing an Iowa team that literally can be just as hot as cold as us, check.
Yep.
Playing a Houston team that's maybe missing some key players, check. I will take that. I'm excited for what's going to happen this weekend in Birmingham. Because It's literally 2.5 hours from where I will be heading there. I've already got the tickets, as I've said. Gonna be in there for session 2. I really want to stay for the other game too, but I kind of have this thing where I need to do a post game show and stuff. So I don't know how that's going to work out. By the way, as just a reminder, we'll do it one more time for the show's end. Our bracket challenge contest is live right now. Go to the tournament challenge app for ESPN. Look up the group E2C Network 20 E2C Network 2023, and you can sign up there for a $50 e-gift card from Alumni Hall. They are huge supporters of this year, and we appreciate them so much. We'll be talking more about them and doing a prediction show probably Monday night. So if you heard this after the fact, I'm sorry, but you can go watch the replay. Anyway, back to this to round out this part of the discussion. The other angle of this is the other side of the state. Alabama will also be competing in Birmingham, not in the same bracket, not in the same region location, but not even the same region part of the bracket, but for what a whole weekend. Auburn, Alabama fans are taking over Birmingham. It is literally like we have gone back to the Iron Bowl days. Well, it is the Mecca.
Yeah, Auburn and Alabama fans taking over Birmingham. The key word there is Auburn, and because it's always taken over by Alabama fans, but which is why we got that game out of that city. I digress. We're back in the same arena. And like you said, Alabama, the number 1 overall seed, they'll be the number 1 seed in the South region. Auburn's in the Midwest. So none of these games mean they're going to end up playing each other. But it certainly gives an opportunity. They'll be in different sessions. Auburn's in session 2 for ticketing purposes, for those still wondering. It gives an opportunity, though, for fans to kind of, if let's say you bought both sessions for Birmingham. Birmingham's been trying to sell these tickets for a year now before any of us had any idea what games or what teams would be coming in today. Let's say you have both sessions. I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to stick around for that Alabama game, who's at 1:45, by the way, during the workday on a Thursday, another luck of the draw for Auburn. I mean, if you want to stick in there, I'm sure you could find a Texas A&M Chris Commerce T-shirt or whoever the heck they're going to be playing.
I'm sure don't hurt yourself trying to say that.
Yeah, it's whoever the play-in game. They're going to get throttled. But I'm sure they'd be happy to have your support. I'm sure that, West Virginia West Virginia and Maryland is who Alabama might play, Kyle. And we know all about West Virginia and the shooters they have. I'm just saying, if you wanted to use your tickets wisely that you may accidentally have gotten for session 1, or you may have both, I think that'd be your Auburn duty to make sure they don't go to waste.
Listen, you got opportunities, man. It's never, I don't think it's ever happened. I shouldn't say it's ever happened this way. You know anything like that? Has it ever happened where Auburn got to play in Birmingham? That's a Clint Richardson question.
I mean, yes, but not in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at. So we'll leave that out there for anybody who wants to look that up, or Clint himself, if he wants to see this and figure that out, Mr. History Buff. But regardless, the lead up to this game, the setup is beautiful, is magnificent, even during a tumultuous year for Auburn basketball. I'm super excited for it. But now let's transition to this. Let's start actually talking about the game, the bracket a little bit itself. We alluded to it already in our final segment here about what we think might happen. What does it look like for Auburn? A lot of people are already predicting we're going to make another magical run simply because of what the matchup looks like itself. You already alluded to yourself, and we've had people pre-show that hang out with us that have mentioned, things like Houston, who they would have to probably eventually see if they won first game against Iowa, has got some injuries and things like that. It couldn't set up any better. So does that worry you, Austin, that the setup for it seems too convenient? Does that concern you, or are you just like thriving in the fact that we couldn't have gotten a better draw?
Right now, I'm thriving in the fact we couldn't have gotten a better draw, just because that those things don't happen to Auburn typically. And so I'm thrilled right now. We're in Birmingham. I'm thrilled we're at a great time. I'm thrilled that we're going to be able to pack the arena, and Iowa's just going to feel like, how did we end up here? But
I was like, we just left a cornfield and now we're here.
Exactly. I mean, it's just going to be like, they're excited. They're in the tournament. and playing in a first round matchup, but it's just kind of like, oh, well, why don't we just actually go play down there in Neville Arena? But I think that it sets up really, really well, right? Like it is okay to be optimistic about that because it's true. Auburn still has to make the shots. Auburn still has to play good defense and get the ball in the hole. But on the court, all those things still have to happen. But all the things outside are set up well for Auburn to figure out in a tumultuous year, in a down year, as some are saying, in a negative tone. Which, by the way, a down year nowadays for Auburn basketball means, oh, you're still making the NCAA tournament. Let's
Yep.
not ever let that get lost on us. They can have a chance to beat Iowa. They can have a chance to beat Houston. And then, there's a bunch of things that have to happen. But let's say they end up with something like Miami in the Sweet 16, a revenge game from last year. Just all the things that could possibly go right, look like they can be lined up for Auburn. And so I think that that's exciting. I think we should be happy about it. Take it one game at a time.
Right.
If Auburn doesn't win against Iowa, all that is for naught. So there's no sense in banking on any of that or looking forward to it. Just Auburn is in the NCAA tournament. That's still a statement that surprises many of us. Auburn is in the NCAA tournament. Take joy in it, and we'll just see what happens. I did want to tell you one thing, Kyle. That a good friend of mine, Brooks Childress, told me earlier today. The past 4 times Auburn has been in the NCAA tournament, they have lost to an ACC team with a shade of orange. Now, you can take that however you want because Syracuse in 2003 was not in the ACC at the time. They are now. But if you want to count them, it's Syracuse, Clemson, Virginia, and Miami. Well, the only way that can happen in Auburn's region again is losing to Miami. So I think they're going to the Sweet 16.
Just from that alone, that's what you're operating off of.
I mean, people have filled out their brackets for much worse, Kyle.
Yeah, at the moment I said that, I was sitting there thinking of some people I'd help. Like I'm not gonna. She'd never watched the show, but there was a person at my former employer that I got the whole office into March Madness.
Oh yeah.
And I said, look, y'all have a choice. You're filling out brackets. I just hand it to him, just start filling out. She's like, all right, fine, I'll do it, but tell me what each mascot is, and I'm gonna pick based off mascot. And so literally, it was just based off what the mascot was, and she did not pick Auburn despite me because she knew it would mess.
That's how Emily. I think that's how I first got her to do her first bracket, is the mascots or the colors. It was one of the two, and she ended up liking the colors of the most. And I think she's always done better than me in the bracket challenge, especially on E2Cs.
The frustrating thing is it's always the people who have, no offense,
absolutely
no business even going far because they just did something like that. But that's the fun of it too, because like if you do nail it, it's this great feeling. I will never forget. I think it was 3 seasons ago. No, that would be the COVID year. So maybe it was the one right before Auburn's magical run. I got almost out of the entire first round unscathed until the last 2 games, and I took 2 L's in a row. And I was like, that would have been the biggest. But when I made it out of the first day unscathed, and I called some big upsets, like I'm talking major upsets, I was like, oh, this is the year for me. And it wasn't. It got much worse after that point. But anyway, on our bracket prediction show, which we're probably going to do Monday night, hope you guys can join us live here on YouTube. We will break down some of that. I'll give you obviously take any advice I give you with a grain of salt, because obviously I haven't won it all yet. But I have a few key things that I will tell you there to not count on, to count on. Most of you that have been watching this channel for some time will be able to repeat those verbatim, because I'm sure I'm like a record that does not ever skip. Or I guess does skip and stays on the same points time and time again. All right, Auburn, Iowa. Obviously 8 versus 9. That one is expected to be a toss-up, at least in seeding, in the speculation game, simply by the seeding alone. They're the 2 dead middle seeds. It really could go either way. Do you even consider it an upset, Austin, if Iowa loses to Auburn?
Oh no, I don't. The 8-9, I've never considered the 9 being the 8 an upset. I think probably when you hear about the stats of how many first round upsets, that'll get included. But I think those are 2 so similar. Their records are normally a game off of each other, if not the exact same. So I don't. Do you?
I would not. In some cases, it depends on who the 8 and the 9 is. Sometimes you'll get some of these mid-major teams that really
Sure.
have an upstart year, and they didn't have enough happen for them to get ranked much higher, and then they find themselves against maybe a ACC team that has had a rough year, but it's still an ACC team, and then it's like, oh, that's that would be an upset if that
Sure.
happened. This one, Iowa, Auburn, two major SEC and Big Ten programs, both have had success in recent years. This one just seems to me like it's made for a really good matchup in the first round. Would you care to offer a prediction early on?
Oh,
How are you feeling right now about it?
I do think Auburn's going to win. I really think Birmingham is going to be a major game changer for them. If this game's in Des Moines, I don't feel as great about it.
Right.
I think Auburn's going to have to make shots. That is just what it's going to come down to. Ole Miss. What in the world?
What are you talking about, Ole Miss?
Iowa. I
Poor Ole
don't
Miss can't
know.
even keep a coach, much less make the tournament this year.
I don't care at all about Ole Miss. Iowa has a great offense and a streaky defense, and so it's going to be a matter. It's for Auburn's defense to combat with their offense, and Auburn to make shots when it counts. And this is bare minimum. This is when it counts. This is win or go home. And so here's their shot. But I think Auburn's going to get to that game. I think they're going to get to play Houston on Saturday. And then it's just a matter of who's got more magic and who can last the longest in March. And so it's going to be awesome.
Quick kind of scenarios based off what you said there. You said if it was in Des Moines, maybe it's favored for Iowa. Let's just take it to Los Angeles. If the game's held in LA, who wins?
I'd probably still pick Iowa, honestly.
I think I would too, to be honest.
Just because of Auburn's struggles on the road. Something we haven't mentioned. Auburn's played in this arena before. Like it's not like they're going to Birmingham and that's what's going to get them because they're going to be a bunch of fans there. Like we play in this arena every year, just about before we start going to Atlanta for the showdown or the hoops giving thing. Bruce Burrow's coached in this arena. Players have played in this arena. Like this is going to be a familiar territory for them. A lot of these kids have still been in the NCAA tournament. There's really not even that much of like an unawareness of what the tournament is like for them. I'm not super concerned about the atmosphere being too much for them. It's just a matter of can they make shots when it counts? Because you could say all those things the same for the SEC tournament in Nashville. They've all played there before. But I think Birmingham and the Auburn contingency will help them get that first round win.
As opposed to us ending on a how far do they go prediction, because I know you still want to think on brackets and situations and stuff. Percentage confidence from you that Auburn can, because let's play this out here. Let's say they do beat Iowa. If everything goes chalk, you would expect them to face Houston in the next round in Birmingham still. After that, you're probably looking at running into an Indiana or Miami in the Sweet 16. I don't know that I can comfortably even make a prediction after that point, just because those are some challenging teams coming up. But if I was to say to you, your percentage confidence that Auburn makes the Sweet 16, what do you think?
Oh, that Auburn makes the Sweet 16. So we're giving that'd be a win against
two
Houston.
wins. And they get two wins. Yeah.
I don't know what number. I'm going to say less than 50%, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe like 33-ish, like a third. I don't know. Houston's a 1 seed. I know they've got some injuries and that they struggled with Memphis. They got blown out by Memphis, but
which we did too, kind of.
We did, but Houston's a 1 seed. That's a team of players. I think Auburn could win. Anything could happen in March. That's the glory of it, right?
Yeah.
But I think you still have to be nervous about that, and you can guarantee all but one seed has made the second round. So I think you can guarantee Houston in the second round of Auburn's potential third round of 32 opponent. But it'd be tough to get to the Sweet 16. I would love that.
Regardless, this is going to be a fun one. Good matchups, good location. I have a special feeling for some reason, and I didn't everyone feels special about the March Madness every year because it's that fun. St. Peter's was the Cinderella last year, and I had a ball with that. But I don't know. I just got this feeling there's going to be a special March Madness this year. I hope that special means that we're watching Alabama fall flat on their face as the number one overall seed. We're all wishing and hoping for that. The likelihood of it happens probably low, but there's a lot to follow within Auburn, a lot to follow in March Madness outside of Auburn. We're just happy that we're in it. Auburn versus Iowa coming up, and we're excited to talk about it on the next episode of the Auburn Experience podcast. But we thank you so much for tuning into this episode, hanging out with us, spending some time talking about all these different things. Austin, on the way out, where can they find you?
Austin G. Scott. You can find me anytime on Twitter or Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter at Kyle Loomis 24. Be sure to sign up for that bracket challenge contest to win that $50 e-gift card from Alumni Hall. Don't miss out on that. E2C Network 2013 is the group you want in the ESPN app. There'll be details.
2023, not 13.
Did I say 13?
You did.
What did you say? You messed up earlier too. So,
I said Bartow Arena. I didn't get the whole decade.
2023, and that's the way we're going to end this show. Hopefully, I'm getting out all the flubs so Auburn doesn't have a flub when they go out there on the court on Thursday.
Sure. Yeah, that'll work.
We'll go with that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.